Hey guys, Pulse here, and today we're going to take a look at Destiny, that game from Bungie, the ones that brought you Halo, and they've teamed up with Activision to give us something amazing. And if you can't tell, I'm pretty excited about this game. It looks super good. I'm really excited. My game of E3 for sure, despite the fact that the Division looks amazing as well. But I will be doing a video about that also, so stay tuned. Now, I'm not going to take a huge in-depth look at this. It's really going to be a sort of a overview. I'm going to point out what I see and talk about the game as a whole and my impressions from the demo. I will probably do another video too that go in-depth about Destiny's intricacies, but that will come at a later date. Now, as we get into it, let me just tell you what Destiny is. Destiny is a game in which Earth is fucked. Humanity and its allied races are in a hellhole. Only in the last city is everything okay, and only because of the Traveler, a giant moon structure that hovers overhead and protects us and gives some of us magical abilities, which is us, the characters. And I like magic, space magic, as Bungie has said. We will be playing these Guardians, and you know what? It will be cool because there are 3 flavors of us. We're tasty. Now, to start off, we have the Warlock, which is this character played by the guy in the demonstration, and this character is kind of reminiscent of Vanguard or an Adept from Mass Effect, where you have the gunplay in conjunction with the magical effects. In this case, Bungie has even said to compare it to punching someone in the face with the power of the sun or something like that. Pretty much explosions and stuff like that. Super cool, can't go wrong with magical explosions. Second, and right on cue, is the Hunter, who just got dropped off by his ship as he was invited to the fire team. And this character is supposed to be, anyway, the stealthy kind of archetype. That character everyone wants to be, the sniper badass with like all hoods and cloaks and stuff. But he has a very interesting ability we will see later that is actually quite the opposite of that stealthy archetype, and a pretty cool flip-flop, which will occur when shit hits the fan, which is very cool. And then the Titan, which we will see a little bit of, not very much. We'll see a little bit of that towards the end of this. And the Titan is essentially a class most reminiscent to the Spartan Master Chief from Halo, in which he's just this big hulking character with massive armor and heavy weapons mastery, that kind of thing. He's the most generic of the group, but he also has space magic, not in this video scene, but one that was released later by a guy, pretty sure he took with a cell phone or something like that, where character jumps up and smashes the ground, and it releases this huge sort of explosive Nova thing beneath his feet. Pretty cool. I'm sure it's like a knockdown or knockback. But and that's pretty much it for the classes, but there's a lot more to the customization. Cosmetically, there's a lot coming for us, and the guns, which we will see a little bit later. There's a lot of customization there. Now, before the combat quite starts, let me just tell you what's really exciting about this game. As we've seen, the character joined by a friend sort of organically. They didn't have to sit in a queue system or a matchmaking room or a lobby or any of that sort of garbage that we've come to know. It sort of happened. He invited him and he came right in, dropped off. And then more importantly is they're doing something which a lot of other games have actually shown off at E3, was using sort of Journey-esque technology. Which, if you don't know what Journey is that PS3 game, that indie title, which what occurs is you walk around in the world, you explore this beautiful world created for you, and then suddenly players will show up and you can join in with them or do whatever and have a good time paired up with them, or they can leave and you may never heard from them again, or you may run into them later down the road. You never know. And it's just supposed to be a more organic sort of grouping system and more realistic look at how the world would be. If you're out in the world and suddenly you stumble on someone, you and your fire team, your group of friends can stumble on other people. But then here's the combat. Let me just veer off to the combat here, because this is the portion of it that's kind of combat filled. We see the Fallen, which are the pretty much the only enemy in this little demonstration here. They're kind of a mix of Insectoid meets Elite. They're very agile. They actually come off the walls in some cases, which we just saw there before he got stabbed in the face. You probably should have stayed on the wall, you bastard. Stabbed in the face. But they're pretty quick, and speaking of quick, the combat itself is very quick. I mean, we'll see some like sliding here, very cool, and just the way that the weapons swapping and the melee combat, it's very fast paced, especially by Halo standards. And some of that I'm going to say right now is due to the fact there are no shielded enemies in this. Halo, as great as it is, one of the things, and I have to say there's very few things I dislike about Halo. One of them was that, especially on harder difficulties, it was just super shielded up elites or whatever kind of enemies that took ages to kill, and it wasn't that they were super challenging, it was that they were super bullet spongy, and it wasn't very fun, I have to say, unless you were in a group, which everything's better in a group. And then here we have a badass ability. This is what I was talking about. The character has been shown to be the sniper archetype, and then the hunter pulls out this like special ammo where he puts magic on his gun or something, and it turns him into like one-shot kill bullets that explode and incinerate the enemies. And then the warlock had his own where he jumped up into the air and launched a huge sort of Nova bomb that just wrecked the whole room. And then here is a scripted death, which was extremely obvious, but a boss fight. Very cool. We knew that we would get boss fights. That's a big mechanic in this game, is the sort of the almost like Borderlands style group play, which leads up to loot and boss fights. And in this case, Rixus, the Archon Slayer, I believe his name is, and he's this big badass Fallen with super armor. He's got this rocket launcher / shotgun thing going on, and before getting his face melted off at like point blank range by some fire thing from hell, he had this ability to like run around quickly. He kind of reminds me of that God character from Riddick that could like leave that ethereal trail. Very cool, but very short-lived because he got his ass destroyed. But then here we see the loot, so worth the fight for sure. Here we see the character screen, and this is where the RPG MMO aspects come into play. This is very reminiscent of pretty much any RPG or MMO of recent memory. And then this is the gun progression. It looks very linear, but we're not really sure how this will change or deviate, because the game is said to have a lot more randomly generated sort of loot instead of this named loot. These are exotic weapons. These are extremely rare. You will not get these very often, if at all. They're supposed to be very rare, so that the few people that go out of their way to get them do get them, and it will be worth the effort. Now, I do kind of worry that they will fall into the trappings of other MMOs and they will become extremely common over time. I hope that there is both luck and skill involved to get these, and not something that you can just wiki like a solution to, because otherwise it's just going to be a commonplace and no one will give two shits about who has an exotic or not. And that would actually diminish the fact that the random loot system is working to provide more options, because essentially what can happen is, just for example here, the characters get their own loot, but there could be essentially 2 sniper rifles that drop off that boss, for example, and one sniper rifle could have like such and such damage potential, and the other could have higher or lower that damage potential as well, different stat values and that sort of thing, different coefficients working the numbers in the background. But then it could also have a different skill stat progression kind of thing that we saw. The Thunderlord had a very linear one, but the fact of the matter is that other weapons in the world will have different ones, and even if it's the same type of weapon, it will not all be the same, which means each character can sort of pick and choose the weapon they like, perhaps the special effects involved with them, like Thunderlord had one at the end of the progression which gave it lightning damage. But I'm going to stop there and go on to, more importantly, the dynamic events. It reminds me instantly of Guild Wars 2, the way that it occurs. It's essentially out in the world, you just doing your own shit, and then bam, this crazy event happens. In this case, they call them public events, and this one's called Fallen Assault. A huge Fallen dropship followed by tons of other ships, and Fallen enemies abound, and then all of a sudden, another fire team comes in, and this is actually 7 players, and we've been told that because Bungie loves the number 7. They're in love with 7. But this is 7 players suddenly colliding on this dynamic occurring event that's out in the world, and they're just fighting to get their loot, or they're there to have the experience. I mean, I'm all for loot. I'm I'm all for getting the loot, but I feel like the challenge and the organic feeling of playing with other players and just how it organically happens, I should say, when you're just fighting all these enemies after you were just exploring, doing your own thing, and then after this boss, who knows what's going to happen. And speaking of the boss, this is a Devil Walker. This is a fallen species, heavy weaponry. It was previously known as a spider tank. Pretty much what it is this giant tank thing with huge rockets, a huge gun on these legs, so it's kind of maneuverable in the close range. And there's these 7 people just destroying it. They cleared out all the little infantry. They're fighting this huge boss. And the whole thing is, this is only one size event, okay? This is not something you can just expect 7 people at the max or whatever. 3 people can be in like the events that we saw with the wall. We've been told that those kinds of places are deliberately instanced off in a way that allows small number of people to go in them, so that it's not something that can be intruded on by other players. It's something that can be done in private, essentially, or with your small group, so you can go in there and do that. But as you've seen, there was no load screen. They just sort of ventured out of the wall and came upon this other event, which other people could join in. So it's not all very obvious where the instance lines are. There is supposed to be like a warning text or something that pops up. And now the trailer's actually done. You're seeing all the other enemy species here, and they're getting some story elements thrown into this trailer to make sure that we don't forget that this game, even though it's not a single player game, that this does have story, it does have substance, and it does have emotion, and overall there's more to it than just you are nameless character in pointless world, go kill stuff. There is reason to play this. The character interaction is one of them, the environment is one of them, but the story is one of them as well. Very cool stuff, very cool stuff. And as the trailer winds down, I'm actually gonna repeat the trailer. I'm actually gonna stop it right here where they drop the character off, so they can get right back to where guns are showing, because guns are cool. Now I just want to kind of talk again about the way that they're blending all this stuff together, because it's not really obvious from this, but there's tons of information about it. But the real draw of this game, and actually some of the other games shown at E3, just for an example, The Division, which I mentioned at the very beginning of this, and there's another called The Crew, which is a racing game, which has sort of taken this like I said, journey tech, which is actually from some people coined the term the year of the journey, or year of journey at E3, in which these AAA games have taken that idea straight from those indie devs and decided to apply it to these universes and that sort of thing. And in this case and in The Division, both cases are MMO style open world games. Now Bungie has been very careful not to call this an MMO, and recently have been denying the fact that we should call it an open world game too, but I feel like that's ridiculous. Somebody is just paranoid over there, because this is an open world game for sure. What they've done, I mean, as you've seen, the ship flies in and drops him over. All of that space that his ship is flying over, even though we got that cinematic entrance, all of that stuff he flew over is stuff that we can go see. It's places we can go. It's real geometry our feet can stand on, and we can go to and explore and adventure in. Very cool. But the biggest part is that even if, and I don't even foresee this being a huge issue because of the way that the line is blurred between when you see the like limited party size to the like open dynamic areas, it's not obvious. There's no load screens or anything there. I feel like even if they have to put in a few sort of instance doors, which is commonplace in MMOs anyway because of the way that they work, if a game that has this good graphical fidelity and this good gameplay and the way that it all works, if they have to put a couple of those in, that's no reason to take away the title or sort of classification of a open world game, because it surely is. If we can go there, this is a big open world to explore. And I should say worlds, because there's actually a lot of them. As you've seen in the ending sort of credits style montage they had going on, there are spaceships in the game. Each player will get their own, and there are supposed to be specific hangars, tons of customization for your ships, because as you've seen at the beginning, there's one that looks very reminiscent to, say, a Pelican that dropped off the Warlock, but there's one that looks more like a fighter jet that dropped off both the Hunter and the Titan later in the trailer. and they all look good. They're supposed to be get some customization, but the biggest part about that is not so much that you have a ship for shits and giggles. It's that you're going to use that ship to go to other places, namely the galaxy at large. Essentially, we can go to Mars, to Venus, to the moon, and all of these places have been altered in a very odd way that isn't really explained. Now, there is some sort of speculation going around a trailer that they showed where it's presumed to be the traveler flying through the universe before coming to Earth, and it sort of passes by all of the planets in our solar system and potentially more. And it really seems to be that the traveler's magics have kind of altered the universe as a whole. So all of these planets we go to have been either changed by the fact that we're in the future and there's all of these alien races doing their thing and altering the terrain in their own way by building and that sort of thing, which is pretty cool in its own right. But the fact that the traveler is going to places like, for example, one of the biggest and obvious ones is Venus, which is a lush jungle, which makes no sense whatsoever. And it's crazy because it looks amazing. I can totally see myself going to Venus and exploring this tropical, like, dense jungle area on a planet that we know has not had any of that stuff, and it looks amazing. And it's really, really cool that the sort of design choices they've made, and sort of the aesthetic choice they've made and changes they've done to the planets in our solar system can make them really interesting, because Mars looks very Mars-like. It's very red, and it has all the sort of canyons that we come to know in real life. But then we have ones, like I said, Venus is a lush jungle out of nowhere. Very cool stuff. I'm very looking forward to the exploration aspects of this game. And I kind of want to end on that high note, because the whole thing is with this game, it's got so much going for it. I can't possibly put it all in one video. So I want to end it here. I just want to say thanks for watching. This has been Pulse from NovaPulseGaming, and I intend to bring lots and lots more coverage to you guys. Please like and subscribe, leave comments down below, and I'll have a Facebook page up soon as well. You can follow that for more info and just all around news and chatter with me. I will try to be on there as best as I can. I am working with limited time, to be honest, but this is sort of a passion project. I've wanted to do this for a while, and I feel like with the next generation coming is a really good time to hop in and sort of put my opinion on the table, or in this case the internet, and let you guys hear my voice, because I'm very passionate about games, but I'm extremely cynical and critical about them as well, because I love for instance, Destiny here. I'm sure, don't worry that I'm just gonna be some fanboy. If that's what you're wanting, I will fanboy over some stuff, but I'm not gonna be someone that defends something to the death. I'm not that guy. I will definitely put out my opinions on some things, and for that reason, I think you should listen, because I am different, I'm going to say. So on that note, you kind of know what I'm going for, what I'm doing. I'm actually going to put out an intro to the channel video pretty soon that explains potential content going forward, and I kind of want your vote and your thoughts on it. So again, this has been Pulse. Thanks for watching, and come back next time.